It used to be you did one thing and you did it well. Now you keep being asked to do more and more at work, spread yourself thinner, try to use some AI tool to stay afloat, all while seeing the waters rise as you slip towards darkness. And the same is true for supercars. Okay, that's a big statement, but essentially, functionally, it's true. If you're watching this video, you know that once purist performance car brands like Lamborghini, Ferrari, and Aston Martin make SUVs today. Porsche has been making them for 2 decades now. 40 years after the Lamborghini LM002 broke the mold, super SUVs have climbed to the top of the automotive food chain. The question of why supercar brands sold out for SUVs feels like a gimme. It's money, right? Gotta make money. And SUVs are a necessary evil to fund the production of real poster cars. But if you take a step back, that explanation falls short at the foot of a much larger story about how massive companies are forced to operate in today's world. And once you do, maybe you can make sense of why some super SUVs feel like betrayals and others end up feeling like part of the family, even if it takes a couple decades to fit in. You've probably heard someone say that the only reason Porsche still exists today is because of the Cayenne. The company's finances were in the toilet in the 90s, it bet the house on launching its first SUV in 2002,
the Porsche Cayenne.
And Yahtzee. Porsche was saved from ruin and went on a 20-year tear. And that in turn gave permission for every other sports car brand to follow suit. It's a tidy little narrative, but it's not entirely true. Porsche was in trouble in the 90s after getting rocked by a global recession, falling demand for the aging air-cooled 911, and the failure of literally any other model it made to catch on with buyers. None of that was good, but it didn't require an SUV to fix. It did require a new model that people actually wanted. And that, my friends, was the first Porsche Boxster in 1996. As a more affordable mid-engine sports car, it opened up an entire new global market for Porsche and sold far above projections. And thanks to Toyota teaching them about the wonders of part sharing, it was cheaper than ever to build too. All this to say, by 2000, Porsche's sales in North America had grown by over 1,000% from 1993. No Cayenne yet, but it was coming. Porsche had sensed death and it wasn't going down without a fight. And it did have a fight on its hands. People loved the Boxster, but its 1998 announcement that it was going to build an SUV was met with skepticism and a lot of concerned looks. Like that friend you have, who when people ask how he's doing, you say, "Oh, he's not well." But Porsche plowed ahead, not content to sit out the late 90s luxury SUV boom. The Cayenne debuted in 2002 not only as Porsche's first SUV, but its first 4-door anything. It was also its first shot at a real 4-wheel drive with low range and first diesel road car. Basically, it was nothing like any Porsche before. That's mainly because it wasn't really a Porsche. It was built on a platform from VW, the same one also used in the VW Touareg. It was also built at a Volkswagen plant, only being sent to Porsche for interior and final inspection, and the 6-cylinder models used VW engines. It was a huge and well-timed bet that paid off handsomely. The Cayenne sold like hotcakes and raked in cash for Porsche. It gave all these new SUV buyers looking for a luxury ride for their family something to cross-shop against BMW and Mercedes. I think the best way to put it is the Cayenne was an effort to take the image of Porsche from something that you live for to something that you live with. They were trying to completely transform the brand, not make money to keep the lights on. That's why even though luxury SUVs were moving far away from their rugged roots by 2002, Porsche still went and gave the Cayenne a low-range transfer case and continues to boast about its off-road and towing abilities to this day. It's also why low-mile first-gen Cayennes are legit collector cars now. And you know that's not going to be true about the Lamborghini Urus in 20 years. Porsche's approach just aged really, really well. Though obviously, the money helped. A lot. And this is where the idea of SUVs as a necessary evil has some merit. It's impossible to trace money made in one area of a massive company and money spent in another, but a rising tide lifts all boats. Porsche has said that the Cayenne's enormous profits were key in funding the development of the 918 Spyder and its Le Mans program. Those profits were also key in its disastrous attempt to take over VW that ended with Porsche being absorbed into the group in 2011, but that's a story for another time. It also taught the company a lot about volume manufacturing and how to invest in its future on a scale it was never able to before. I think it's fair to say that Porsche would still exist today as a boutique automaker if it never made the Cayenne and eventually the Macan, but it would have put out a lot fewer sick cars over the last 24 years. And even though it's kind of painful to know that SUVs made up 61% of its North American sales in 2025, it's unlikely it would have also sold 21,000 two-door sports cars that year without them. So the Cayenne didn't save Porsche exactly, but it did level them up significantly. That is the key distinction I want to make. Supercar brands are now doing the same thing not because they need super SUVs to survive, but because they need them to grow. Somewhere along the way in this fun journey we all call capitalism, growth became synonymous with survival, but we do ourselves a disservice to buy into that whole cloth. For publicly traded companies, it's not enough to make a good, stable profit every year. You have to make more money every year. The reason for that isn't just because people are greedy. It's because the main goal for investors, smart ones anyway, is to buy into a company's future growth, not its past performance. I'm not the guy you want explaining a stock's forward price to earning ratios, but for our purposes, all you need to know is the financial instruments investors use to judge future growth generally ignore the toll that growth might take on a company's image or legacy. And when growth for growth's sake is the goal, not growth to expand a brand's horizon like Porsche, you get something like the Lamborghini Urus, which launched in 2018 as the company's first widely produced SUV. I see you LM002 boys, but I'm not talking to you. Prior to that, Lamborghini was the definition of a low-volume manufacturer, only really able to make 2 models at a time with some special editions thrown in for the diehards. Not exactly a sparkling business model, but enough to keep it growing to a record 3,815 cars sold in 2017, and that was the V12 Aventador and the V10 Huracan. Keep in mind these are incredibly expensive cars, so sounds okay, right? The problem was that Lamborghini literally couldn't build enough cars to meet demand. You see, both the Aventador and the Huracan were finished and assembled by hand in Lamborghini's factory in Italy. Sure, some stuff was automated, but final assembly, upholstery, and engine fitting were all performed by human beings. Each Aventador reportedly took 28 hours to assemble. That's 28 work hours. That's 28 Italian work hours. And during their run, wait time for both cars would often get to be over 12 months long. So even though 2017 was a record year, it really didn't seem like Lamborghini would ever have the capacity to deliver more than 4,000 cars annually. Incremental growth, just not going to cut it when you're part of the Volkswagen group. So Lamborghini went and developed the Urus as efficiently as possible, using a chassis from VW, a twin-turbo V8 from Audi, and a lot of octagons. And you know what? It worked. Lamborghini sales immediately jumped to 5,750 in 2018, and last year it set its 3rd consecutive record with over 10,000 cars sold. It doesn't break down sales by model, but real talk, you know where that number came from. The growth was achieved, Lamborghini's in a more stable financial position than ever, and it's found new buyers all over the map. And yet, diehard fans still look at the Urus like it debased the brand, not as a moment of maturation that'll bring more cars they really care about. Even though Lamborghini has directly said that the Urus helped pay for the new Revuelto and Temerario. That's because there is a subtle but very important difference between the logic Porsche and Lamborghini used to launch their first SUVs. For Porsche, which was a private company at the time, it was, we need to change how people will see us and growth will follow. For Lamborghini, as part of a publicly traded conglomerate, it was, we need to grow. And it doesn't matter how it changes how people see us, because it will work. Fact is, no one owns or is directly responsible for keeping a brand's decisions in line with its legacy once the founder leaves or dies. Shareholders can sell, executives can move on, like former Lamborghini CEO Stefano Domenicali did in 2020. Diluting a brand to raise the share price is a classic tragedy of the commons. While it might seem like the ultimate rational calculation to water down a brand like Lamborghini with a money-making SUV, it's actually no more calculated than refusing to build one. Instead, it's a cultural and institutional decision that just follows a different set of incentives towards a different outcome. The only way to counter that is doubling down on your own irrationality. And that's why I think the most successful super SUV to date is the Ferrari Purosangue. No supercar is sensible, but Ferrari built its entire brand on completely ignoring convention. In 75 years of making cars, it pretty much always did whatever it wanted and used its mystique to convince people its products were actually what they wanted all along. Market research was no match for Maranello's vision. Still, Ferrari went public in 2015 and faced arguably higher growth pressures than even Lamborghini since it's on its own out there. It reluctantly accepted that it needed an SUV for the same reasons. But instead of partnering with someone bigger or half-assing it to check a box or trying to evolve with a hybrid, it came out with a 715 horsepower lifted wagon with suicide doors and an exquisite 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12. It's basically a Ferrari FF with a little more ground clearance. you got to appreciate how much of a middle finger that really is to the whole SUV mandate. And Ferrari's been smart about marketing it too. It's presented as like an SUV-shaped Ferrari that belongs on the road, and its active suspension is purely designed for fast corners, not fire roads. Lamborghini has an off-road package for the Urus, and while it does look kinda cool, it's also another signal that they're fine with twisting the model and the brand into whatever shape to appeal to as many people as possible. Meanwhile, Ferrari's like, this is how we do SUVs. If you don't like it, that's your problem, not ours. It's also been clear that it does not want the Purosangue to dominate sales. I don't want to oversimplify how easy or feasible it is for Lamborghini or any other company to go Ferrari's route, because they are very different companies, even if we always lump those two together as the crazy Italians. And certainly Ferrari's made a lot of questionable moves in other areas lately. But I think the Purosangue took the right lessons from the first Porsche Cayenne. Intentionally change how people see you, and growth will follow. Ferrari set a sales record in 2024 with 13,752 cars, but only 2,000 of those were the Purosangue. Sales were a tick lower in 2025 due to other model line transitions, but the company's revenue reached another high at $7.5 billion. There are always going to be people who hate this, and no amount of explaining or contextualizing will make it okay that a Ferrari SUV even exists today. And I get it. I've always said that if car companies spend decades selling you on an emotional connection to their products, it's fair play to turn that back around and crucify them for violating it. You have a right to big feelings here. But if you can move past them, maybe it helps to think about it like this. The same forces that brought us this age of super SUVs are also why there are far more supercars in the world today than there were 30 years ago. And if you can accept that super SUVs have always been kind of inevitable, it frees you up to judge them on their merits. Keep hating the ones that let you down, but appreciating the ones that stay the course. So the next time you see a supercar company announcing its next SUV, maybe you'll be just a little less mad. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Anyway, let me know what you think about all this in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. The only way to counter that is doubling down on your own irrationality. That came out of nowhere.